The Infuse SMP stands out from other SMPs in a way that's pretty rare. That way being its familiar members and its format of lore that involves them all. With more recognizable and newer faces coming together to create a story out of a simple twist, it becomes more than just an SMP. At that point, it becomes an entire universe, separate from the ones created outside of it. In this one though, it's packed with lore, waiting to be unraveled. And from what I've seen, there's a lot of it. But in order to even get a glimpse, we have to go all the way back to when it first started. To keep it simple, I'll be organizing the prologue into the different perspectives of the first 4 teams that were created in its early days. For each of these teams, I'll explain their origin along with their story all the way to the end of the prologue. You'll be able to connect the dots as the video goes on. Now with all that said, I hope you enjoy the humble beginnings of the Infuse SMP. In June of 2022, the first announcement of the Infuse SMP was released in the form of a Twitter post. In this post, it announced the first member of the SMP, infamous JJ. JJ was previously known for being the owner of the Demise SMP, an SMP that I've actually covered on here before. Although, the difference between the Demise SMP and this new SMP is that, going in, it had a new JJ. A JJ that had only dropped scripted content weeks prior. A JJ that was actually willing to share ownership among the members, branch out, and make connections. A JJ that the Minecraft world was not ready for. And in the first 2 weeks of June, not only was he announced, but the other 9 members were announced as well. Within the final member announcement, the release date was revealed. And lo and behold, on the 12th of June at 12 PM EST, the SMP officially launched. One of the fastest teams to form was the Wet Gang, and it had started with a bit of drama between the 2 members, Wenzo and Tazzo. Wenzo had despised Tazzo for the crimes he committed in other SMPs, along with the ones he did to him. Seeing him on the launch day of the SMP only made it worse, as he realized that he had to spend an entire season with him. Not only that, but when Tazzo noticed that Wenzo had joined, he immediately forced him into a team. Although Wenzo wanted to get revenge on him, he decided not to retaliate, and instead tried to come up with a way to backstab him while being on his team. Around this time, everybody had already formed a team, and Apaxial was the only one without an ally. So he got into a voice call with both Wenzo and Tazzo and asked to join their team. Tazzo was very eager to accept him into the team for his own goals, but Wenzo wasn't sure about trusting him as he hadn't even trusted Tazzo. In fact, he had come up with the possibility that they both could secretly be teaming already and had planned to betray him. What he and Tazzo didn't know was that the real reason Apaxial had wanted to join their team was because Rasmus had threatened him with a suspicious message and made him paranoid since he wasn't on any team. But with them joining together, that would make him feel more safe. So Tazzo and Wenzo arrived back at spawn to meet up with him. Unfortunately for them, JJ just happened to be present, which made both of them run the other way until they eventually met up with Epax. There, he had gained their trust with some supplies, and later, they learned that while being chased away by JJ, they had stumbled across his and Diny's base, which was in a village. This made them think about taking them on, as it would be a 3v2, and it would benefit all of them heavily in the long run. So after deciding to go ahead with it, they got prepared and went to ambush them. Sneaking right around their base at night, they waited, until eventually JJ was spotted. In a swift manner, Tazzo jumped in and killed both JJ and Diny in a few strikes, making the ambush a success. With their new potion buffs, they went underground to mine and get better gear. And that's when Renzo had spotted Rion, which made them all realize that JJ had an alliance with another team, which was bad news for them, as that meant that they were more on their way to avenge him. Seeing that as a cue to get out of there, they ran. Not too long after they escaped, JJ joined their voice call, letting them know that he had various negative potion effects. This, along with the fact that JJ had also let them know how he got them, surprised them. He explained that the reason was because of his failed attempts to kill Rion with a bed in the nether, leading him to die that time and several times after. JJ also said that another team, SLinc, was hosting an event where they had planned to ambush their team, and he and Diny were a part of it. But if they all teamed up, they could go against SLinc and conquer them. After hearing this, they all agreed on an offer and then accepted him into the team, even though they knew the possibility of him betraying them. With the battle switching from a 3v7 to a 5v5, they were all ready for the server's first war. And on the day of, the tension was rising until Sarkos made contact with Tazzo, officially announcing the start of the war with not his words, but his actions. With the war being started, things were already looking up for the Wet Gang, because only a few minutes in, Rasmus had been killed by JJ, and soon after, Rion to Epax. With only one opposing member escaping, the rest of them were killed and it turned into a 5v1, with Sarkos being the only one left in the battlefield. Unfortunately for him, the war and event had ended, as he was killed. With that conclusion, the Wet Gang was way more powerful than they had ever been before, but who says they would stop there? Well, nobody does. But if you were to look at the origin of the other team, you would probably feel bad for them. You see, all the way back when the SMP launched, Testelna had formed a team with Rion and Rasmus. Together, they formed an alliance with SLinc, a team that was composed of Sharkos, Lomedy, and Rion. For the sake of a name for Estelna's unnamed team, I'll be referring to them as the Dee Squad. Together, they had a common enemy, that enemy being the Wet Gang. That's why SLinc planned to host an event that would end them once and for all. But in order to do that, they would need the advantage. So Sharkos came up with an idea about trying to abuse the plugin broken by dying to themselves in order to gain positive potion effects. This glitch actually did end up working, leading them to use it to their advantage. Later down the line, after Tazzo and his team was approached by JJ for an offer he had logged off at the village SLinc just happened to be at. When he logged back on, they realized he was there and ambushed him. Fortunately for him, he escaped, but that didn't stop them from trying to track him down, even though it eventually led to a dead end. That's when Apaxial, a member of the Wet Gang, contacted Shark and asked to trade with him. This ended up in an ambush, where the Wet Gang attacked both Lomedy and Shark. In the midst of battle, Tazzo killed Lomedy, causing Shark to run away, but they weren't gonna let him escape, as Epax jumped Shark and killed him. And at that point, Shark started having some doubts about his success in the upcoming war, at least until JJ messaged him, letting him know that he and Diney could help him win. And Shark, believing him, accepted his alliance offer. Little did he know that they were actually going to secretly ambush him with the Wet Gang. But before I explain how that went, let me tell you about this video's sponsor, Server.pro. Server.pro is a safe, useful Minecraft server hoster that offers useful features for everyone using all three of their plans. If you don't want to use money to run a server, it's got you covered with its complimentary plan. However, if you want a more quality and queue-free experience, it offers you its premium and pro plans, which gives you more features. If you're interested and want to try it out for yourself, use the referral link in the description to get started. It's one simple click away, and I would really appreciate it if you went ahead and gave it a try. On the day of the war, everybody appeared at the event, and when the time was right, Shark signaled his team to charge them, officially starting the war. This war would end horribly for Shark, as he had been betrayed the moment the war started, and because of it, he and most of his teammates had died. I say most because Estelna had fled, being the only survivor on SLinc's side to escape. But even though SLincc had earned the L in his name, Sharkos didn't think the real war was done yet. In fact, to get back at them, he created a cult with Lomedy and attempted to recruit other members into it. The team he approached first was the Dee Squad, and he requested their help for his new team, the Laughing Sharks. While talking about his goals, he suddenly starts attacking them, instantly losing their trust. And once again, Estelna was the only survivor of an encounter like this, as Rion had been killed by Lomedy. But this wasn't even the worst part, as Shark had somehow converted Rion into their cult even after they killed him. Not only that, but her other teammate Rasmus had also been killed, even after her repeated attempts to make sure he wasn't. But along with all these problems arising, something strange happened. Lomedy had offered to trade with her, the trade being an LA for 3 Wither Skeleton skulls. Now, even though he worked with Shark Girls, she still took the offer because she thought LAs were cute. Shark, seeing a great opportunity to ambush her, set up one with his team. This would be a mistake though, as after they met up and she gave him one skull, she noticed a familiar name tag and immediately ran the other way. That's when Shark Girls and his team jumped out and ran after her. It was a wild goose chase, as Estelna had to manage running away from her enemies while having 2 negative potion effects. After a while of chasing, she dug herself into a hole and faced off against Rion in a very close 1v1 that left her on 2 hearts, but still on top as she killed him. Not too long after that, she turned the tide and killed Shark, making Lomedy retreat. After this victory, she continued on by herself until she was approached by JJ's teammate, Diney. Diney told her about JJ's plan to kill her, and also talked about how badly JJ treated him as a teammate. He then persuaded her to team up with him until the next day, where he appeared at her meadow with JJ. Diney made it seem like he was about to betray her until the last minute, where he turned it around and they both jumped JJ. This 2v1 that JJ was instantly forced into seemed possible to counter, as he had been through many of these before, but this time was different, as Estelna had actually managed to kill him with the help of Diney, and just like that, Estelna had finally found a teammate that she could actually trust. On the other hand, after Shark Girls was defeated, he disbanded the cult. At this stage, Shark felt really bad about what he put Lomedy through, so he dedicated his time to make a shrine for him to represent their friendship and gain his trust back. While doing so, he had been contacted by Rasmus, someone who he had killed during his time as a cult leader. After meeting up early in the morning, Rasmus revealed and activated a trap, almost managing to kill Shark, who barely escaped with an inch of his life. An inch that was also taken away as he drowned. Even though he thought he deserved it after everything he did, he was surprised to find out that Lomedy avenged him by killing Raz. After a little bit of fighting, they all decided to stop the conflict over the cult and came up with a compromise. The compromise being that he would give them back their axolotl if they had an ender chest. The only ender chest Shark knew of was the one at Estelna's base, so they went there, and Raz earned Shark's trust by leading him there without killing him. But as Shark was using the chest, Raz started to attack him. Shark Girls, feeling dead inside, tried to stop Raz from killing him for a few seconds, but then just gave up. After looking back on everything he did, Shark Girls knew he had to pay for it, as if he just kept on starting conflicts, he would feel terrible. So, as punishment, he told Lomedy to kill him over and over again until he had every single positive potion effect. Lomedy accepted his request, but told him that once he killed all the betrayers, he would return it. And with that, the beginning of the end began. But by now, you're probably wondering where JJ is involved in all this. Well, when the SMP first launched, he and his best friend Dee teamed up, just like they had before on other SMPs. Even though Dee had been one of the first to don the SMP and receive a bad effect, he was still able to respond and get stacked with JJ. Around this time, Dee had spotted Winzo and Tazzo running through their base, not realizing it was owned by them. This made both of them nervous, which led JJ to track them down. And as you've heard, Winzo and Tazzo spotted him and ran away to meet up with the Paxio. Not too long after this, the Wet Gang came together to take down both Dee and JJ, and they succeeded. After this, JJ decided to lie to the Dee Squad in order to form an alliance and get stacked again. This lie turned out to be in his favor, as he earned their equipment along with their trust. And although he had second thoughts about betraying them, he still went ahead and tried to by attempting to assassinate Rion. Notice how I said attempt. Yeah, he ended up failing, which resulted in both of their deaths. This brought the two back to spawn, and JJ couldn't fight him because he had weakness. After getting killed by Rion, he tried to find his stuff, but died several times while doing so. Even with these unfortunate events, that did not stop Rion from disbanding the alliance and kicking JJ out of his base. This made JJ run over to the Wet Gang, and this is when he gave them the rundown of what happened. After that, they offered to help JJ remove his bad effects, which would cost the lives of people like Lomni and Dee. JJ, knowing that Dee was his teammate, still accepted the offer, and even though to him it felt like a bad thing to do, in the end it would still be worth it. But before that, JJ had to collect some information from Dee, and so he waited for the perfect moment to gather some. Fortunately, Dee had asked the Dee Squad for another alliance, but seeing how the last one went, they were skeptical. But after coming together in a group chat and exchanging information about things like the plugin's glitch, they all formed another alliance. JJ, knowing all of this info, informed the Wet Gang, which made them trust him and accept his offer to add Dee to the team and not betray him. This is where the event in war came in. Originally Dee's idea, revamped by SLinc, this event was hosted by them, but set up with betrayal, as on the day of the war, the battle would be turned over. From a 7v3 to a 5v5, the Wet Gang, with their alliance, ended up winning pretty easily. This made everyone on the winning team fairly happy. Well, everybody but Dee, as he still didn't feel satisfied with his negative effects. That's when JJ pointed out that Estella had escaped, which led both of them to secretly ambush her. Or so JJ thought. As it turned out, that Dee had set him up and teamed up with Estella to kill him. And unfortunately for JJ, Dee would get what he wanted, as a few struggling minutes later, JJ was killed. At this point, JJ felt more than betrayed, as Dee was his best friend, the one he held closest to him. And even though he betrayed him, JJ still didn't change his mind about their friendship. All he wanted to do was be comforted by his best friend, and unfortunately for him, that wouldn't be anytime soon. And that was the humble beginnings of the Infuse SMP. If you want me to do a continuation of this series, let me know. The reason I'm covering the prologue only is to give myself an idea of how long it would take to get through the entirety of season 1. And there are like over 50 videos in my playlist. To me, covering it from one perspective makes it a lot easier, but let me know what you think. Also, if there are any other SMPs you want me to cover, drop by into my Discord server and let me know. Consider checking out the last video as well, where I break down the character that is McCartney Stan. Alright, thanks for watching, and have a good day.